Welcome to the new one-on-one interview show for the AutoHub show and Lethal Sales for 2026.
Hello there, this is Ian Nethercrop with the AutoHub show. Check out the new logo above me. I paid a big $57 Canadian for that, so about $30. So I thought it was pretty impressive. Anyway, if you're going to be at NADA 2025, I have the pleasure of interviewing a member of the LotLinks team. If you're not familiar with LotLinks, I did interview Len, I believe, at NADA 2025 earlier this year during a snowstorm. So that was a fun thing. There were actually snowmen and snowwomen, and I don't know what those were with beads during that time, which was funny. Anyway, I have Lance on. So Lance, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about you, but more importantly about why the auto industry.
Yeah, so I've been dedicated to the auto industry since about 2005, but I actually got into the industry and kind of toe dipped in about 1996.
Wow.
And I was out of my dorm room. A partner and I decided we wanted to make websites. We thought that was the future. Netscape had just gone public. That was pretty exciting. And we didn't really know how to get into it. So the best idea we had was to look for whoever had the biggest ads in the yellow pages. Some of the audience might remember the yellow pages. And it turns out the folks who called us back were auto dealers. And they were our first customers. And so we built quite a few automotive websites over, from about 96 to about 98 or 99. And, but kind of got out of automotive for about 6 years. Kind of actually got into more of the finance side of things, non-auto finance. But always loved working with dealers. What does this thing do? What's happening? And so in about 2005, kind of in a brainstorming session, we were at the pivotal moment of our business. We really wanted to build something substantial, and we wanted to find a place to build it. And we kind of remembered how much we loved the automotive space from a few years back, right? And so we just said, let's build a portal in automotive, and we created a portal called lemonfree.com. And so we used everything we knew about, in those years in between, say, 98 and 2005, we were doing lots of SEO and lots of ad tech, kind of paid marketing, display marketing, that kind of stuff for clients. And we wanted to apply everything we knew into the automotive space and get into it. So we just kind of wanted to get into automotive. And we created basically an automotive portal that actually took off. And by about 2009 or 10, it was doing about 3 million visitors a month. So wow. It really did take off. From there, I met up with Len Short in about 2011 and really loved what he was doing in LotLinks, and at the time it was called Chug and LotLinks. And we started working together. And we became very important to each other's businesses. And so we were acquired by LotLinks. Our company was acquired in 2015. And it's been awesome ever since. So we kind of brought together everything we knew, and he brought everything to the table and really created something great. And I've been, when our company was acquired, I became the general manager of product technology, and that was in 2015. So now for 10 years, been working on that side of it within the auto space. So that's kind of a long form, kind of whatever that is. How many years is that? Almost 30 years, yeah. I guess, in some shape.
Well, believe it or not, I had a website design company in 1997 as well. My mistake my mistake was also looking at the yellow pages, but when I talk to people, they're like, yeah, websites, the yellow pages got a handle. You don't need that. That's not going
Yeah, no, I remember that, hearing that too. And we that's one of the reasons we got out of it, actually, was, at first it was kind of hard to build websites. And so you have to have the right skills. Yeah. And by about 98, anyone with a Mac in their basement, we were being outcompeted by $300 options from, some kid in 10th grade in the basement. And so at some point it was like, that's where we got into more traffic, which we thought was much more valuable, and turned out it was. And so, that's still a very core, important part of LotLinks as well, is traffic. And so yeah, it was a good business for a little bit, but it was definitely a good business to get out of.
And that was back when websites had Muzak and little animations and stuff like that. Yeah. I actually talked to what was it, a funeral home I talked to. He's like, yeah, we don't need that. And then fast forward, 30 years, I had the option to go to a funeral, and he was live streaming 5 years ago. And I was like, you were way ahead of that one. That was interesting.
No kidding.
So I had a chance to talk to Len last year, or earlier this year, it seems like last year, about what was going on at LotLinks. But it sounds like you're doing a little bit now with ChatGPT for the car business. Obviously, ChatGPT, probably everyone knows, is one of the AI monsters in the ring with, Apple and Grok and Google, Gemini, I think it is. What is LotGPT, and why is it important? I mean, I know car guys aren't technical in nature, so maybe you can dumb it down for them.
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, Len asked, and I really kind of almost begged him, but to really put some big effort into creating a chatbot for dealers. And the reason we thought it was important is, and I think this is, by the way, the case in all verticals, is that the broad chatbots or AIs like Grok, like ChatGPT, like Gemini, have some limitations. And at some point, I think dealers are using those probably every day, but the limitations are pretty specific. And what we thought is we could overcome those. The first limitation is getting data into those, like the dealer's data and or kind of like industry data into those. The way they're trained is on the broad internet, but what we have is at LotLinks is very, very structured data that really can enhance any type of queries or prompts that are inside of a chatbot. The second thing is dealers are wary of uploading data into public, these more public, broad chatbots. So like ChatGPT has an upload button, and even ChatGPT warns you shouldn't do anything that's like, confidential and all that. They shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
We've been ingesting dealer data, we're SOC 2 certified, under contract with dealers for, over a dozen years. And dealers trust us with their data. That includes their feed data, their CRM data, their DMS data, and their Google Analytics data. And that combined with all the LotLinks data really allows for a much richer experience from a chatbot experience. So, when we see that, I think in the automotive vertical in software, the example I love to use is how many dealers are using Salesforce.com as their CRM, right? It's almost next to none, right? But in the broad industry, it's like everyone uses Salesforce.com. It's the most valuable CRM company in the world. It's because the auto industry is that different. And we think that that's the case for chatbots. And, over time, dealers will want a vertical chatbot. And Automotive speaks dealers. It's designed to kind of work in the dealer's frame of mind with their data, with automotive data, and really trained up in that respect from the knowledge perspective.
So, obviously there's chatbots out there, and I've talked to a number of these companies over the years, whether it's a person or a bot. What is LotGPT? How is that different in a chatbot than, say, your, I guess, dumb bot or legacy bot that says, hey, how you doing? Can I get your phone number? Hey, can I get your name? Hey, I'd love to have someone to help you. How is it better than that?
Yeah, it's way more robust. In other words, it's designed to outcompete ChatGPT. And so which is really the and not that ChatGPT, obviously ChatGPT is a marvel, but it's designed to outperform ChatGPT for dealer for things about the dealer's business. And I would say that could, these chatbots, these kind of other chatbots that are out there that are more specific to what the type of queries that you've asked for or asked about just in the question here, they're kind of going the way of the dodo because everyone ChatGPT set the tone for what people expect in terms of a quality response to questions. And so I just think that at some point dealers will use the most robust possible chatbot, and that it has all their data in it, so they don't have to upload all the time, and they feel safe with their data in it, and kind of trained on the way they do business. And I think that's the difference between LotGPT and those types of bots.
Fantastic. So obviously you're through a pilot phase. You had a lot of queries. I think it was something like 92,000. I'm not sure if that's right. What were some of the most common use cases you saw after looking or parsing those queries? What did you learn from it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It depended on where they were in the life cycle of like discovery. When they first were using it, it was very broad questions. I think testing to see if it actually knew anything. and what we noticed is as a dealer, and funny ones too. Like, I mean, we saw, should I leave my wife was what I saw that.
What?
Yeah, but anyways, I have to assume it's a joke. We're not equipped to answer that question at LotGPT. We might as well go to ChatGPT for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do respond with those really funny answers. We know that they're auto dealers and basically do stuff like that. But general questions like, where am I in my market? Who are my competitors and how are they doing compared to me? Because we have full market data, we can answer those questions. Here's the 6 competitors. Here's their foot traffic. Here's what yours compared to theirs. Here's their models versus yours. Here's how you're pacing. And so that was a real big initial, like how am I doing in the market was a really, and how am I doing versus competitors. And then what we found over time is once they kind of learn that, and I think that was more of a test. Do you really know what's going on in my market? Because if you don't really know, then how can I trust you with other things? And then what we found out is it really went into very tactical things. So what should I do with this? What's your opinion on this VIN? And because we have the VIN, if you ask ChatGPT, what should I do? And you cut and paste the VIN in, it wouldn't know because it doesn't know what the VIN is that.
Right.
LotGPT gives a very, very specific answer to that. So saying they take a look at the VIN, it takes a look at how many leads you got on it, any price changes you've made, how many shoppers in the market. LotLinks knows that information really well, how much foot traffic's coming in and out. And it might recommend, hey, you should just hold steady. This thing's going to sell. In fact, it might even, with our AI systems or ML systems, it might even predict, hey, probably going to sell in the next 15 days if that's good. And so, maybe don't lower the price on that. Because often dealers are asked, they're generally like, should I lower the price on this thing or is it going to sell or what's happening? It also takes a look at what's going on in the market. So it can kind of give dealers a lot of confidence, and not only that, but it explains why. Now, I've actually had dealers argue with the chatbot, like, I don't agree with you, like, I think you're an idiot, like, which is fair enough. We don't, the chatbot itself is, I would say, it's kind of just an opinion. You don't have to agree with it. It doesn't go out and lower the prices for you or raise the prices or do stuff like that. But that really is kind of what I'd call the day-to-day. Like, or even things like, what are the 10 cars that are struggling the most, and do you have any ideas of how I can, what I should do with them? Should I send it to auction? Should I lower the price? Should I promote it more? Should I hold steady and just be fine? And so that's where it ends up, which is awesome because that means it's actually a tool, not just a curiosity.
So what if you have a used car person that actually knows what they're talking about? Not saying every dealer doesn't have that. Can they train or fuel the AI to get better data and to get a better result? Like, is that something that that old school used car dog can actually train the AI to get better and maybe help them more? Is that something that can be done in fueling the AI?
Yeah, like there's a couple ways to do it. And so one of the ways to do it is through the prompt itself. So in other words, you can say, I believe this and I believe this. So before you answer that, consider those things. That's a pretty sophisticated way to do it. But we do see as time goes on and dealers are learning to prompt better, they put their kind of belief system in there so that the AI can kind of say, okay, this person believes this. Some examples that I've seen is dealers saying, I want 200 used cars on my lot no matter what, so don't bother suggesting lowering prices or anything if I've got less than 200. And it just trains it to think that way.
Right.
And the bot doesn't listen. If that's what you believe, the bot doesn't argue. Like, it's okay, this is your belief. It's the other way we can do it is there's kind of like what we call global training, kind of best practices, kind of that we see using data science methodology. And then there's training at the account level or at the actual user level. And so that training is allowed, that it doesn't stretch out into other dealers, because if you don't believe that, like, I mean, the person next door is allowed, I never have more than 50 used cars a lot. That makes no sense to me. So what we want to do is have that memory and that training happening at the account level, but also have a very strong basis of kind of best practices and knowledge base at the global level.
So I guess the $100 million question, and obviously iRobot, it's not like this bot's going to come out of the computer and attack you or something like that. But, how difficult is it for a dealer to get onboarded with this solution? And more importantly, what does it cost the dealer? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's free, so it doesn't cost anything. We do put some limitations on the free accounts. We only allow 5 queries per hour. So that's, just because it does cost money for us to run it. But if they're a LotLinks customer, they get unlimited, but they're not required to be a LotLinks customer to do that. A couple of things is we also allow them a free onboarding of certain data that makes the bot way better. And those are very simple onboardings. It's their feed. So we have a really good sense of their grounded inventory. Sometimes dealers cross-list inventory from other dealerships, gets rid of that problem. The second thing is their Google Analytics. They can hook that in, and then they can do some nice querying around some of their marketing activity and in comparison to inventory. Right now, there's actually a waiting list to get on into LotGPT. It's not fully open to the public. And we're slowly letting people in, partially because we want to monitor the tech from dealers who go in, they really hammer it, and so we just want to make sure that it's stable. And so we're letting about 10 dealers per day in right now. We're going to increase that as time goes on, and at some point we'll remove that gate once we're fairly confident that it's working well. So if you go to lotlinks.com, I think /LotGPT. You can just join the waiting list, and within usually about a week or so, we're finding we let folks in and to try it out.
Details will be below in the description, just in case you want.
Yeah, hopefully I said that right. But,
so, it's all good. We'll make sure that goes. And also, if you want to check out the interview with Len from NADA 2025, there was some discussion about the wider LotLinks ecosystem. When you're looking at LotGPT, in the future, what's your long-term vision for its role, and how do you think it's going to impact the retail industry, in your opinion?
Yeah, long-term, LotGPT, and I'd say vertical AI, if you want to say the broader category, will be the tools of choice for dealers. And the reason for that, again, is the intelligence will be very specific to the dealership world, but also to their dealership. And so in the long term, they'll have these LotGPT will be nicely trained at the dealer level, but also at the global level that we talked about, so that at least from a chatbot perspective, it'll be great. The other thing that's going to really change, though, so the chatbot is really just almost like an assistant or someone to bounce ideas off or get advice from, right?
Yeah.
No different than how we use, watch ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. I think what's interesting is then it'll start to do stuff. So right now it's one thing for it to, and so what type of stuff will it do? Well, we're, obviously, it'll probably start with the lower risk kind of stuff that you kind of count on people doing with some level of intelligence, and it'll start doing those things. And a good example will be, description writing or, annotating images are kind of two areas that we're good at. We also look at, we can rate the VDP and then make changes to the VDP. And then, even at some point, maybe, and so those are probably the early things that we're going to say that it's going to do. At some point, they may start actually, they call the agentic, right? We'll give it agency to do things. You have agency to write my descriptions. You have agency to transform the imagery. You have agency to update my website. You have agency. So anything where you've got some sort of reasoning, and that it may be things like even control pricing, or obviously agency. We think about phone agents, right? I mean, those are happening. So that is kind of the ultimate future. Is the first thing. The chatbot is kind of, and that's how we all think about it as users. We started with ChatGPT and we just use it as a advisor, and then but at some point you can see even OpenAI is adding all the autonomous features that AIs are going to eventually do. That takes a lot of culture change within a dealership. So I think that will be. I think technically it can be done very quickly, but I don't think it will be, because it's a hard cultural change. To kind of think, oh my goodness, I think about even autonomous cars, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how safe they are, people still are nervous in them, right? And even though the safety records, so it'll be kind of the same kind of mindset, I think, when it comes to down the road.
Yeah, don't expect it to take over everything you do. But thanks very much for talking about this great product, which is LotGPT. That's LotGPT. If you're familiar with LotLinks, you can check out more details on their website. There will be more details below. You can obviously reach out to the team and sign up for the free trial. Obviously, that's a little bit backlog right now, but they want to make sure they get it right. If you're going to be at NADA 2026 in Las Vegas, Nevada, I'm sure LotLinks will have a booth there, and they'll have some people answering questions and maybe doing demos of this product. And of course, if you have questions for the team at LotLinks, you can definitely reach out to Lance. His details will be in the description below, or you can reach out to me at the AutoHub Show. Thanks very much for taking the time today. I appreciate it, and have yourself a wonderful Friday afternoon.